Hey, welcome to Inspiration Station, where we build a sanctuary for your creative spark together. I'm Karina Pardis, a composer, activist, chocoholic, and self-care mom, and I'm so glad you're here. This is a place for you whenever you need encouragement or a reminder to believe in you. Last time, we talked about routines and rituals. This episode is designed to follow up a bit on the process of creating the space we engage in to be sacred, a space for our rituals, ideas, creations, and for our full selves to be fully welcome and present. Joseph Campbell, who was an author and professor of literature, said, "Your sacred space is where you can find yourself over and over again." That is our goal with the space that we create in, is a place to find ourselves, a place to look inside and connect all the dots. And S. Kelly Harrell, an author and the creator of Soul Intent Arts, said, "Sacred space is another way of saying with intention." So how can we intentionally create a sacred space? First, I want to talk about why I am using the word sacred. Sacred is often in a religious context, and I do think that that is very important. It's very important to me. The word sacred means dedicated or set apart, usually specifically for a form of worship to a deity. Any time we create, I believe that we are tapping into what is divine and eternal about us. We are literally bringing something into the world that did not exist before, and that is a miracle. So to take the space where you are creating that and connecting souls of people to each other and changing the world around you, I believe that that space should be dedicated and set apart to something that is miraculous and divine. So what makes a good, sacred, dedicated space to your work? Here are some ideas to consider. The first is you need to consider what your individual needs are. My needs as a composer are different than my needs as a parent, and are different than my needs as a pianist. Sometimes they overlap a little bit, but they still have different needs. If you are a 2D artist, those needs are going to be different than if you are crafting 3D art, than if you are working with blueprints, than if you are working with the written word. All of those needs are different. So being able to think about the individual needs of your creative acts is important. And also your individual needs as a person should not be ignored. Is lighting an issue? Is sound or space or temperature an issue? These are all things that you get to consider and define what your needs are. Take the time to write that out so that you can make sure that all of your needs as a creative individual are being met in your space. So then that leads to physical space. We all have a physical space where we work, and we want it to work for us. I personally love Marie Kondo's work as an organizing consultant and how she talks about space and where you are and how she encourages you to do things that help spark joy. And often clutter gets in the way of that. I am a clutter person. I collect things and I love them and I hold on to them. I have a wall of sticky notes. There's always something there. But I have learned that sometimes going through, like when I'm feeling too busy or I feel like I can't focus, going through that clutter and consciously deciding if it still serves me or not is empowering, and actually clearing out your physical space opens up more room for the mental space to be able to create and have more ideas. Something I'm still practicing. I'm not great at it yet, but I'm working on it. Being able to go through and actually know that these things matter and actually assist me in my creativity instead of just being there and taking up valuable space that could be used for other more meaningful things. As part of your physical space, we want to make sure that that space is accessible. Does your setup get in the way? I know for me, for a long time, just because of the apartment I was living in and the gear that I had and the gear that I didn't have, I was literally setting up my studio from scratch every time I wanted to work on it. And that was not accessible, and it made it really hard to get to work when I was ready to work. Accessibility is all about having the tools that we need in order to make things better. So when I realized that this was an issue, we saved up for an L-shaped desk that would help me have the things that I needed right where I needed them. So now it's so much easier to just get going when I am ready to get going. So recognize where your setup is maybe not helping you. It's actually hindering you. As we create this sacred space, we want to be able to define what are the brakes to our creativity and what is the gas. It is never fun when you are behind a car that constantly speeds up and then brakes, and then speeds up and then brakes. They can't figure out the consistent flow of being able to just move forward on the road, and that's what we're looking for. Defining what your brakes are is so important to not only creating your sacred space, but creating your rituals, creating your system that upholds your creative practice, and also how you as a person relate to what it is that you are doing. After your individual needs, your physical space, making sure that space is accessible, then we talk about our visual space. What are you seeing in the space that you are creating? And not just what are you seeing, but what do you feel like you need to see? What are the things that are missing that you wish you could see in that space? Me personally, I need to see color. I need to see manifestations of creativity. So much of my creativity is auditory, and I love that. It's so important. But if I were just in a blank space, I would not be as prepared to create my soundscapes. I have art from my children. I have quotes. I love hand lettering, and so I have hand lettered a lot of different things that really help me put things in perspective. I use some of them to get ready before I work. I use some of them to help me be satisfied with the work that I've done when it's over. And I use some of them that I look at when I'm discouraged in the middle of work. One of these is a picture of an anchor that I drew with things that anchor me as a person and as an artist. And I got this idea from my friend Chell Wong in one of her composer soft skills videos. Even if you're not a composer, completely worth checking out. I will put the link to that video in the description. And I encourage you to make your own anchor. Even if you don't hang that up in your space, that can help you know what are the things that I need to see, that I need to feel, which is the next part. What is your emotional space that you are creating for yourself? That is so crucial to our creative practice because so much of what we create starts inside of us. I talk a lot about how the power is inside of you, and it really is. And if we're not aware of how our emotional state and the space there is affecting that power, influencing how much of it is allowed to come out or how we use it, then we are missing a large part of the equation of our success and sustainability as creatives. Part of our emotional space includes judgment. How much are we judging ourselves in our art? How can we remove that judgment? Judgment is different than discernment. We as creatives need to be able to discern between what is something that is useful and what is not. Being able to discern between that and the tools that we're using and the outcomes that we're producing is a very, very important skill. But to judge that and say, this part doesn't work for this project, it's crap, I'm crap, that was terrible, that is a judgmental space, and I feel is not conducive to the sacred nature of what it is that we are doing. An emotional space also allows us to have permission that we sit with our feelings, permission to feel uncomfortable, and that we feel this is a safe place to do so, that we are there for ourselves. We've got our own back. It's okay to feel uncomfortable because I'm here for me and I will be okay. Vulnerability is an essential part of creating. Emotional space also helps us define where our boundaries are. Where does burnout begin? Where is the line between hustle and hard work and burnout? Being able to recognize, am I in a sustainable place? The most important thing to recognize is that the sacred nature of your space starts inside of you. You are a divine being. You, as a human being, are sacred. That's already inside of you. We're just building a space proactively on purpose that reflects who you already are and what it is that you're building. The power to love yourself and give yourself the space that you need is always inside of you, not outside of you. We don't get it from outside sources. We can't. I want you to let your space that you create be able to reflect that as much as possible. Abraham Hicks, who was the speaker who defined the basis for the law of attraction principles, said, "Creation is about me being here and being whatever I am." I believe that you deserve a space where you can be yourself and create anything that you dream of. I believe that the space you build matters just as much as what you are building and who you are building. That you are building yourself up first and letting everything else reflect that back at you so that you can remember and you can continue to grow the way that you envision. I believe that creating is sacred and that the space you do it in is also sacred. Thank you so much for listening. I'm excited to talk to you again soon. Until then, stay creative. Here in this moment with human needs and growing dreams, there's so much out there in the world. Commercials and billboards are telling you just what to do and asking who you think you are. Which voice will you listen to when you need inspiration?